Beautiful day right here. And it's always a pleasure to have you every other morning as I take you through the stories of the day, take you through what will be happening, and importantly, we have candid discussions in regards to some of the topics that are making headlines. It is good to have you this morning, and as I take you through, I'd love for you to be part and parcel of me. It's always good, I know, to at least know that you're talking to someone and they're listening to you, and they also are giving their views. You never know what it is that you say would be extremely important to us making changes. So karibu sana. How do you get to do that? Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV 47KAN. My name is Linda Alela, and indeed the program is Morning Cafe. As always, we have so much lined up for you. And we take a look at what has been captured on the papers. As always, we give you updates of what to expect. As you can see, I'm just trying to open this and just let you know that this is what is there in the world of newspapers. And also we give you updates on what is on the diaries or what is on the lineup today. As I try to fix this, you will allow me to use a different one because all the same. Here we are. So at least we can take a look at what is on the papers. Yes. But I'm certainly hoping that you had a beautiful night. And here we are. The People Daily, right there on the front page, the case against Governor Mike Sonko, and he is accused of being corrupt, immoral, incompetent, lacking accountability, and therefore unfit to lead. But he says procedure was not followed in Oyster Bay. That proceeding started yesterday in Senate, and of course proceeds to today. We'll be looking at, or we'll be getting details of the same as we proceed also. That is a story that has been captured in almost all the other newspapers. And from a 6 million lord to a pauper, and let me see whether you're able to get that. From a 6 million lord to a pauper with solid cash in his pocket, Mzee Kapen strolled to the bar to seek investment ideas. He is now dead broke. This probably should serve as a lesson to many of us. You'd love to know that story captured on page 12 and 13 of the People Daily. The big story, another big story, was how Governor swayed Msambweni voters, and this is while DP Ruto's men have claimed credit for victory in by-election. It was Mvuria's push that backed against Joho that assured Faisal Bada a win. That is a story that has been captured on page 4 of the People Daily. I think also a story that is on all the other newspapers, and so much so. And Naomi Campbell arrives in Malindi for holiday. Well, you know what that means for the modeling lovers, for the beauty lovers, for the just entertainment industry. So much will be happening there, so you can be rest assured that you will you'll have the best of it, of the people who are in Malindi for that matter. And that then means we might not be able to go through these other newspapers, but not to worry, later on we'll be having them and we'll be taking you through the same. I do not know why my systems are jamming up this morning, but all the same, those are technically more or less the same stories that we have on these others, or these other newspapers. You can see the Standard. Raila, our man won in Msambweni. Well, that's an interesting one. Still, the Msambweni conversation is ongoing. The man killing our football. Yes, we look to see whether indeed they mean it's Nick Mwenda or who. There you go, a story captured on page 2 and 3 of the Standard newspaper. Sonko's guilty pressed return to haunt him. And yes, we also follow up on the Sonko procedure at the level of the Senate. Moving on, there's so much also in the newspaper, and of course I'll be here to take you through with the guests of the day. But important to note is that we have the day's diary, and let's take a look at what is on the day's diary this morning. Indeed, we do not fail to speak about what will be happening in Senate. Here we go. And the Kenya tea sector lobby will have 120 members who are tea farmers assemble at Uhuru Park for a peaceful march to attend a court case filed by KTDA against the reforms instituted by the government at the Milimani Law Courts in Nairobi. And the farmers will later proceed to the Senate or to give a press brief for the passing of the T bill. So we'll be having our reporters following up on that to update you accordingly. And as we all expect, the proceedings at the level of Senate on the hearing of Governor Mike Sonko's impeachment procedure is also slated to continue today, and he probably gets to know his fate this evening, whether he's going to be impeached or whether he stays as the governor of Nairobi. So we'll be following up on that to know what will take center stage in regards to the same, and we'll always have our team that will be giving you updates of the live proceedings also. And just a reminder, it's very important that you take part and parcel of this. We also take you through the roads on what is happening this morning. Yes, that serves as a reminder, and a brief look at what is on the roads this morning. Parklands and around Westlands, where I am, is not badly off. This is Parklands Road to and from town. Evidently, it is an ease this beautiful morning, and also that gives you this bit of Ojijo Road, which is also one of the key roads. A main road is also not badly off this morning around K1 Club there, and coming down or narrowing it down a bit to a different side, taking us to Waiyaki Way. Here we are. Waiyaki Way also is just some bit of snarl-ups, but they are literally moving. The yellow and the red, as light red or orange line tells you that it is also not so bad this morning. This is Waiyaki Way going all the way to this side of Kianda School, all the way to Kangemi, and tells you that, well, the morning is not badly off. This is Kapenguria Road on this other side that takes us down to Kiambu County and taking us down to Naivasha Road. Naivasha Road is not bad this morning also. As you can see, it's pretty much of an ease. Just taking up a brief look of what it is that is on the road, so at least we know what to expect or what to update you on. And here we are, Jogoo Road. Seems like there's a bit of snarl-ups around Jogoo Road. So if you're taking Jogoo Road this morning, well, there's some bit of reddish marks there around Makadara. That is to tell you, as you're headed to town, you should expect some bit of traffic coming all the way to this side of Landis Road. There is also some bit of traffic around here. That is Landis Road, as you can see, the reddish marks. So that tells you if you're taking that direction, you expect some bit of snarl-up, but it is not badly off. It is evidently moving, taking us to a different direction altogether. This side of Dunga Road to Lusaka Road is all good. As you can see right there, somewhere just around the roundabout is where you'd get some bit of a snarl-up. And this is around also Nyayo National Stadium. Here you go. As you get to the roundabout, from different directions from Langata Road, you get some bit of a snarl-up right there. But then again, it is not as bad as one would imagine. Langata Road is an ease this morning, as you can see right there, to and from town. Evidently, it is not so bad. So you are updated on the same. And let's see whether it's something else. Yes, this side of Landis and Kikomba, around Kikomba there. In most cases, you'll find traffic because, well, there are very many people also who are trying to access the market. So in the event that you're taking that direction, you know what to expect. And elsewhere, let's see, this is a bit of Thika Road. Thika Road is not bad this morning around Githurai right there, going down as you headed to town. It is not bad as you come to connect to around Muranga Road and Ngara Road, Kipande Road. It is evidently not bad around the Pangani area, where most of the times such mornings you'd expect a bit of a snarl-up. So that means it's still not yet busy. And plus it's a Thursday, we're heading to that holiday mood, and we know very well that custody of COVID-19, people have not been moving around the road. So in the event that there's anything that I'll need to update you on, I will be here to tell you. That is the bypass or southern bypass. It is evidently also not so bad this morning. But away from it, let's now look at what is on the newspapers. What it is that my team has prepared. And Senate began the hearing of Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko's impeachment. That is ahead of a vote that will happen today. Now, the embattled county governor, however, wants the motion dismissed, terming it as a witch hunt. Sonko is accused of gross misconduct and inability to lead the county, among other charges.
The totality of the documents which were submitted by the Speaker of the Nairobi City County Assembly are all that there is concerning your motion.
The embattled Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko denied the allegations leveled against him by the County Assembly. Senate started hearing Sonko's impeachment today, ahead of a vote tomorrow on whether to oust the county boss or to save him. Through his lawyer, Governor Sonko termed the impeachment as a witch hunt.
A majority of the Nairobi City County Assembly members who voted for the purported impeachment. The threshold set in law was not set. That was the purpose of the clip. And as I was winding up,
the County Assembly of Nairobi played video clips in the House while presenting their evidence. The County Assembly impeached Governor Sonko 2 weeks ago, accusing him of gross violation of the Constitution, abuse of office, gross misconduct, and inability to lead the county. The county boss is also accused of crippling the Nairobi Metropolitan Service (NMS).
Speaker, as I expound on this, one thing we need to appreciate is that the governor willfully went and signed an agreement between the county and the national government, a function which was actually covered live, and it was done within State House. And we didn't see anybody being forced to sign anything. We only saw people parading to be photographed with the signed documents. As a county, we were never involved. But when it was brought...
Mr. Ogada...
In the evidence tabled at the Senate, Sonko is also accused of authorizing the flashy trips of his daughter Saumu to America amounting to 4.5 million shillings, the daughter being disguised as County Assembly Ward Administrator.
The Governor, Mike Mbuvi Sonko, oversaw and authorized the financing of an illegal, irregular, extravagant, exorbitant, and flashy trip to New York, the United States of America, by his daughter, Saumu Agnes Mbuvi, amounting to Kenya shillings 4.6 million. The daughter was disguised as a ward administrator.
Mr. Ogada, you received from the Nairobi City County Assembly 823,324 to travel to Dubai.
Independent candidate Faisal Bada won the Msambweni by-election, beating ODM's Omar Boga. Now, Bada, who had the blessing of Deputy President William Ruto, garnered about 15,251 votes, followed by ODM candidate Omar Boga, who got 10,444 votes. Boga has already conceded defeat. Joash Ansari reports.
Independent candidate Faisal Bada was declared winner after garnering 15,251 votes against ODM's Omar Boga, who garnered 10,444 votes. Faisal had a backing of Deputy President William Ruto and his allies.
Uchaguzi umeisha rasmi na inabaki safari ya kufanya kazi.
ODM candidate Omar Boga has already conceded defeat in the contest that was termed as a Ruto-Raila rivalry.
Nimechukua nafasi hii congratulate Mheshimiwa Faisal kwa kushinda uchaguzi wa Msambweni na namtakia kila laheri kwa kazi hii.
The Deputy President William Ruto took to his Twitter account to congratulate Bada, saying the Msambweni win cements the trust in God and people. He further has congratulated Gaturi Ward MCA-elect and Lakeview Ward MCA-elect.
Unajua kuna mtu mmoja alienda kule Mombasa juzi, na kwa sababu leo ya heshima sitataja majina, na akasema hapa Msambweni, this is the marking scheme, ya kwamba kama kutaenda hivi, hii maneno ingine itaenda hivi. Sasa mimi nagoja aite press conference aseme kwa sababu Msambweni hasara wamebeba. Sasa maneno ya BBI itakaa vipi?
Like you were in Msambweni yesterday, whatever happened, happened. And one thing is very clear, that the handshake was chicken. Things are no longer at ease. Things are falling apart. And I can tell you, I want this referendum to come very soon for everything now to be concluded.
The Jubilee Party has also congratulated its candidates in Kahawa Wendani for clinching the seat. In Gaturi Ward, Murang'a County, Eunice Mwihaki floored Jubilee's candidate Rosemary Wakuthie alongside 7 contenders after garnering 3,974 votes. In Lakeview Ward in Naivasha, Simon Wanyoike Wanango, who was ousted by the late area MCA Karan Jamburu in the 2017 elections, has made a comeback with the New Democrats Party. Kevin Ochieng of Jubilee Party won Kahawa Wendani seat after garnering 823 votes against his closest challenger, Bernard Kariuki of PEP, with 641 votes. ODM party clinched the Kisumu North Ward seat after its candidate Dede Samuel Otieno registered a landslide victory in the Tuesday's by-election. Dickson Karani won Dabaso Ward seat after garnering 2,499 votes, and while Mcharo Stephen Mwaluga garnered 1,190 to clinch the Wundanyi Mbale seat on a Wiper ticket. Meanwhile, the Electoral Commission has announced the 4th March 2021 as the date for Matungu by-election alongside Huruma, London, Hell's Gate, Kiamokama and Kitise Kithuki wards. Joash Onsare, TV47.
Well, thank you, Joash. Now, former Machakos Senator Johnson Muthama and Belgut Member of Parliament Nelson Koech have been released on Kenya shillings 30,000 bond and police bond each. That is, of course, the politicians were arrested in a connection with the chaos that rocked Msambweni by-election, forcing a polling station to be closed down.
The chaos that rocked Jomo Kenyatta Primary School in Msambweni yesterday led to the arrest of former Machakos Senator Johnson Muthama and Belgut Member of Parliament Nelson Koech, leading to the closure of the polling station. The two were later booked in at the Port Police Station, where they spent the night. However, Muthama says they were not made aware of the reasons as to why they had been arrested.
Yaliyotokea jana ilikuwa ni maneno ya kusikitisha, kwa sababu kushikwa kwangu mimi sikushikwa nikiambiwa umefanya hii au lile. Nilishikwa tu by being told that Senator Muthama, we came here to assist you and rescue you because they are goons who have been prepared by ODM to attack you.
The two politicians were presented at the Kwale Law Court Wednesday morning, but their lawyer John Kamino says whatever happened could have been resolved using other means and the two would have not necessarily faced criminal charges.
Senator Muthama and Honorable Koech should not have been arrested at all. Whatever is alleged to have happened is something that can be dealt with in another corridor of the law, but not in the criminal court.
Kwale Governor Salim Mvurya says it is unfortunate for the men in uniform to be used by a few politicians to trample on the human rights of any Kenyan. Mvurya says this should stop forthwith.
Hivi uchaguzi ulifanyika jana. Maisha yanahitaji kuendelea. Na kama tutakuwa na hali za dhulma kama hizi, especially za viongozi, itakuwa ni swala ambalo linapanda mbegu ya chuki, linapanda mbegu ya watu kuwa na sitofahamu.
Power of the people is stronger than the people in power. Hii historia ya kwamba eti mtu anataka kusimama kwenda kupiga pika sijui na nani ndio kuintimidate wananchi, nataka niwaambie, tunasema wananchi siku hizi wa Kenya wanajua chenye wanachotaka na watafuata chenye wanachoamini.
Politicians who received Muthama and Koech said the Msambweni by-elections was a litmus test on whether the BBI report would pass or not, and the outcome tells it all.
Hii Msambweni hii by election ni kwamba it's a test ya BBI. Boga akipita, BBI imepita. Boga akianguka, BBI imeanguka. Wakenya msijisumbue tena. Tumewapa jibu lile Raila alikuwa anataka ya kwamba Boga ameanguka Msambweni, BBI finito.
The Ruto Brigade led campaigns for independent candidate Faisal Badar, who trounced ODM's Omar Boga to fill in the office that fell vacant following the death of former Member of Parliament Suleiman Dori. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, Deputy President William Ruto is urging leaders to stop using threats in coercing the public to support the Building Bridges Initiative document. Ruto says leaders should instead provide civic education on the document and refrain from using it to divide Kenyans.
Deputy President William Ruto was in Narok County, where he had gone to mourn the mother of former Senator Stephen Ole Ntutu. It was here that he rebuked leaders he claims were using the BBI document to divide Kenyans. Ruto says Kenyans should be allowed to appraise the proposed amendments in an environment devoid of threats.
Mimi nawauliza viongozi, tuache kiburi, tuache madharau. Hawa raia tuwaambie nakala za katiba ndio hii, wasome, tuwaeleze vizuri, wapatiwe civic education. Hawa wananchi watajiamulia ni lipi ambalo wanataka kwenye katiba. Tusiendeshe propaganda eti wananchi ati hawajui. Kama hawajui, watafundishwa, watajua na wataamua.
We cannot be shepherded blindly. Kuambiwa, it is either you say no to BBI or you say yes. We have to engage ourselves kwa sababu katiba ni yetu wote, sio ya mtu moja, so that we agree na hakuna kitu inasemekana mlango imefungwa.
Meanwhile, leaders allied to Ruto say the by-election results in Msambweni proved that the public was in support of the deputy president and that it was a reflection of what awaits the BBI.
Unajua kuna mtu mmoja alienda kule Mombasa juzi, na kwa sababu leo ya heshima sitataja majina, na akasema hapa Msambweni this is the marking scheme ya kwamba kama kutaenda hivi, hii maneno ingine itaenda hivi. Sasa mimi nagoja aite press conference aseme kwa sababu Msambweni hasara wamebeba, sasa maneno ya BBI itakaa vipi.
What will happen and what happened yesterday in Msambweni will be a reflection of things to come. And I'm very happy your prophecy was fulfilled yesterday.
Dalili ya mvua ni mawingu. Dalili ya 2022 ni Msambweni. Na imeshaanza kuonekana.
The leaders reiterated that there was need for a consensus in amending the constitution. They also want President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga to ensure the BBI meets the guaranteed minimum returns for the nation. Sharon Baranga, TV47.
Well, thank you, Sharon, for that. And indeed, kama ni dalili, it is only a matter of time and we get to know whether it is so. So we take a short break and we come back with the newspapers.
Ebinaya tanu, ebinaya moyo, ebinaya time, ebinaya nguma, kwataka wayaka kwataka view. Hey, what's up? My name is Movie and thank you. For the last 3 months we've been watching Coffee with Movie. Nasema ni asante, nashukuru. Thank you for the suggestions, for the opinions, for the suggestions of who you want us to have and the better ideas of how we can modify this show to suit you as best as possible. Nataka ni wish Merry Christmas, Happy Brand New Year 2021. Au sio? It will be bigger, greater, fuller, excellenter. Au sio? I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New 2021, yo.
We let you take us through your journey.
The report of the scan came out. The doctor told us that the scan is showing my baby had already passed on.
I don't like people standing too close to me. I don't like people standing behind me.
And give hope after beating all odds.
We don't choose how we are born. We don't choose how we are raised. The choices we have in this life are virtually limited.
Only on Confessions with Maria every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sunday yes, Sunday mwami. Mtumishi hapa papa unichasero bayai niweze kumushinda shetani. Sunday yes. Tuko ndani ya TV47, don't move, usisonge, pakia hapo na tuna hang out na Coffee with Mbuvi na tunaelekea wakati wa Christmas. Please share. Ukiona kakitu tu, pitia mahali wachia mtu na utachaswa na roho ya TV47. Papa unichase roho niweze kumushinda shetani. Sunday wacha nimalizie chai.
Ebindaya seo, ebindaya tanu, ebindaya moyo, ebindaya thime, ebindaya nguma, kwata kawaya, kwate view. Hey, what's up? My name is Mbuvi and thank you. For the last 3 months we've been watching Coffee with Mbuvi. Nasema ni asante, nashukuru. Thank you for the suggestions, for the opinions, for the suggestions of who you want us to have and the better ideas of how we can modify this show to suit you as best as possible. Nataka niwawish Merry Christmas, Happy Brand New Year 2021. Au sio? It will be bigger, greater, fuller, excellenter. Au sio? I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New 2021, yo.
We let you take us through your journey.
The report of the scan came out. The doctor told us that the scan is showing my baby had already passed on.
I don't like people standing too close to me. I don't like people standing behind me.
And give hope after beating all odds.
We don't choose how we are born. We don't choose how we are raised. The choices we have in this life are virtually limited.
Only on Confessions with Maria every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sunday yes, Sunday mwami. Mtumishi hapa papa unichase roho bayai niweze kumushinda shetani. Sunday yes. Tuko ndani ya TV47, don't move, usisonge, pakia hapo na tuna hang out na Coffee with Mbuvi na tunaelekea wakati wa Christmas. Please share. Ukiona kakitu tu, pitia mahali wachia mtu na utachaswa na roho ya TV47. Papa unichase roho niweze kumushinda shetani. Sunday wacha nimalizie chai.
Ebindaya seo, ebindaya tanu, ebindaya moyo, ebindaya thime, ebindaya nguma, kwata kawaya, kwate view. Hey, what's up? My name is Mbuvi and thank you. For the last 3 months we've been watching Coffee with Mbuvi. Nasema ni asante, nashukuru. Thank you for the suggestions, for the opinions, for the suggestions of who you want us to have and the better ideas of how we can modify this show to suit you as best as possible. Nataka niwawish Merry Christmas, Happy Brand New Year 2021. Au sio? It will be bigger, greater, fuller, excellenter. Au sio? I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New 2021, yo.
We let you take us through your journey.
The report of the scan came out. The doctor told us that the scan is showing my baby had already passed on.
I don't like people standing too close to me. I don't like people standing behind me.
And give hope after beating. Happy holidays.
All right, well, when you see what is on screen, you'll definitely know that it is that time when we take a look at the newspapers. Joining me this morning is governance expert from County Governance Watch, Kevin Osido, who will be helping us go through the newspapers. We take a sneak, preview of what has been there, because you find that a majority of the stories is what we'll be expounding on later on in the discussion, or in the discussion. We'll still have, Kevin Osido alongside the two gentlemen who will be joining us. So keep it right here. But first, we look at what is on the People Daily, the Standard newspaper, and the Daily Nation. First off, the People Daily on the screen. Before we get to that one, let's first pick this big story. The case against Sonko. Governor is accused of being corrupt, immoral, incompetent, lacking accountability, and therefore unfit to lead. But he says procedure was not followed in Oyster Bay. And before we even delve deep into that, because I am sure you've worked with Nairobi County at some point, and that's why I said it was necessary that we note you are, focused on ensuring that governance is done well, especially at the level of the counties. What do you make of the procedure of the Oyster before it even gets to the case and him appearing before the Senate?
In my view, the procedure was proper, because as at the point when an impeachment motion is tabled at the county assembly. And remember that this is not the first time it was being done. It is only the first time it was successfully done. The gaps that then should have been would have been expected should have been dealt with at the very initial stages. And so by the time the clerk of the Senate is receiving an impeachment motion, unless there is either malice or some bit of issues of in compliance to the bid, I don't think it should have gotten to the level of the Senate, and even senators taking their time to sit. But that notwithstanding, I think we also are growing to be able to tighten the gaps that we experience in terms of our impeachment and even governance processes, because we have had successful impeachment motions taking place at the county assembly levels up to the Senate, and we've also had other unsuccessful impeachment motions. For instance, the one for Kirinyaga County, and we also had one attempted one for Mheshimiwa Wangilu, Kitui. Then Wambora was successful, and then later was unsuccessful. So anyone who wants to be able to go through an impeachment process should have done their homework very well. But because this is also coming from His Excellency the Governor, he is fit to pick loopholes, which then he can be able to use for his defense.
All right. Well, we do not go deep into that because we'll be discussing it later, and we also follow the proceedings today to see what his fate would look like. And well, this is an interesting story. From a 6 million lord to a pauper with solid cash in his pocket, Mzee Kapen strolled to the bar to seek investment ideas. He is now dead broke. This story is on page 12 and 13. I don't know. Probably it's not just about the old man, but technically about most of us and some of the investments that we pick. And it has been given a proper, of course, outlook. Here you go. Last for sugar, cash leaves bitter taste in farmers' mouths. And also pastoralists abandon livestock for sugarcane. And this should be 8. Curtains fall on councillor who quit job, says after win. I mean, that's technically what is happening. I think it's just in the sugar industry. And this was theirs with bonuses.
It's quite disturbing. It is not looking good.
Yes.
Particularly in the context of our economy. Also looking at the context of COVID-19, when everyone is really trying to scavenge for a shilling to be able to make ends meet. Excuse me. But I think that the most important issue here is what lessons do we learn from our grappling sugar industry. The government has made very heavy investments in terms of hundreds of millions up to billions of shillings to be able to resuscitate the sugar industry. But I think that even as farmers are asking for their bonuses to be paid, the people who make these payments know how much every individual is going to get or is going to earn. So I think that there is need for schemes for people to be put into either groups where they can be taken through investment processes, investment lessons. Kenya is known to be a very progressive country when it comes to investment models. And so even if it means that we are going to put up one for sugar farmers, for maize farmers, for pastoralists, things, for instance, the ones that we do for our young people, Youth Enterprise Development Fund. So if we're going to put up an investments fund, more or less like a SACCO for sugar industries, I think it would be one thing that will be able to deal with some of these issues that we are seeing, because the old man walked into a bar from the story which you have read to be able to look for investment schemes. And when you walked into a bar with 6 million shillings, what do you expect?
In search for an investment.
We see that even among young people who get little bonuses, even those who do good
our
business.
Sportsmen and women.
And it's just money that goes into some wastage use. I think it's a lesson for us to learn, and then to tighten how we engage with farmers and even any Kenyan who gets such huge amounts of bonuses.
Right, okay. Well, that aside, how Governor swayed Msambweni voters. This is a story on page 4 of the People Daily. While Deputy President William Ruto men have claimed claimed credit for the victory in by-election, it was Mvuria's push back against Joho that assured Faisal Bada a win. This is page 4. Here we are, the Msambweni elections. I know we'll be looking at it later on, but it brings a lot of interesting intrigue, so to speak. I think you've seen the stories that we've captured, and the utterances of the leader speaks volumes for sure.
It does, and I think for me this is quite an interesting pointer for where we are headed to, both for the BBI process and also for the 2022 elections. Mheshimiwa Mvurya has done well, because a governor who you don't see him, at very national levels trying to look for what to do. Because the gentleman is grassroots. He has worked in that area with some non-governmental organizations. He's been, he knows his people very well. If you were to get into the lifestyles of, for instance, the Digo people and the people who live in Kwale, the gentleman knows what the people are looking for. And so for me, I think if I was to edit the headline, I would have just said the people of Msambweni spoke loudly.
Okay.
I would not credit this to either Tanga or any other side of the political divide. I would give this to the people of Msambweni. But of course, with a lot of support and good work that Governor Mvurya has done. I would not credit it to Tanga. I would not give it to the Deputy President. I would give it to the people of Msambweni. Okay,
well, and indeed, so to speak, it was a match, or I like calling it a match, because literally it was. That was, very many looked at and were eagerly waiting to see what will happen. Also, one to watch for is, a couple of them that will be running in 2021, and the Electoral Agency has set March 2021 for the Matungu by-elections, and a couple of other county assemblies or maybe wards, that is, we'll be looking at them later on in March, and we'll follow up on what will play out. So Chebukati in a Gazette notice listed the wards in Huruma, Uasin-Gishu, Hell's Gate and London, in Nakuru, Kiamukama, ward in Kisii, and Kitise Kithuku in Makueni, and a couple of others. We'll be waiting to see what will happen in regards to that, and the significance of the same on the national politics, because evidently it is hard to speak about them and fail to touch on the national politics. Muthama, Member of Parliament, released on cash bail after night in cell. The culture of animosity, intolerance during the electioneering period or the election processes is something that is wanting, especially at this point when we're heading for a referendum.
Very disturbing.
If at all there's going to be any. Oh my God. Why did I say that? Yes.
I think the promoters of the BBI are very keen to be able to have the referendum. Whether it is the right thing to do for where we are at right now or not, I think that is for Kenyans and the promoters to tell. But the telltale signs are not looking very good, particularly, as you rightfully mentioned, the referendum and even heading into the 2022 elections. We have to be able to stop the political class. And how Kenyans are going to do this is one thing that we need to be guided and supported by very strong institutions. For instance, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, NCIC, to be able to come very strongly. IEBC has a lot of work to do. I think for the by-elections that have passed, they've done quite well. I think from my assessment and the kind of reports that we are seeing, they've tried. But I think these are also pointers to what therefore they need to look at, particularly when they are doing their electoral management processes and planning for the upcoming referendum, if it is there, and also for the 2022 elections, particularly when it comes to do with security, because insecurity is one of those avenues for which most voters get disenfranchised. For instance, persons with disabilities will not go into, the kind of fracas that we see taking place. Women, will not go to vote just because they have seen people holding their neckties and they want to fight. So that really is a scare already. So IEBC therefore will have to begin having very early conversations with security infrastructure, the DCI, for instance, for investigations and even information. Our NIS, the intelligence service, has to really come up very strongly to be able to even craft early warning signs. The various organizations that are whose interest, like ours, County Governance Watch, need to come up also with early warning signs and reporting mechanisms for which then we can be able to pass them on to institutions. And when this kind of information is passed on, let action be taken. Yeah, let people not just be taken to cells, and then because they have a lot of money, because there are people who may not have that money and they would be, lying there in cells. Let action be taken, and that action needs to be seen to have been taken by the institutions that are relevant.
Right, indeed, I would agree to that. And this page, that is page 5, also gives you a brief or an overview of all the other wards also that had the chance to go for an election, as the ward representatives pledged to work for all. And we wait to see. Most of the leaders will do that, but then the question is just how open are they towards this. Page 6, court declines to stop impeachment process, and obscene phone calls by governor return to haunt him at House session. Ward representatives lay out case against embattled Sonko. I think we've touched on that on the front page. We'll be looking at it later on as we proceed. And coming back to page 2, well, a bit of a different conversation for the lovers of beauty. Naomi Campbell arrives in Malindi for a holiday. Renowned model is residing at the exclusive Lion in the Sun Resort, owned by her ex-boyfriend, or so to speak. So I don't know whether there's much to say about this, but yes, beauty is in Malindi.
It is a holiday.
You see,
Christmas is next week, by the way. Happy early Christmas holiday.
Thank you. Happy one, because I'm sure we're not going to meet anyway. So yes, thank you.
So if we need guests or visitors like Naomi Campbell to come and remind us about our local tourism, why not? But I think that most Kenyans like going to the coast during such kind of moments, and so when they meet with Naomi on the streets, on the bysides of the beaches, please take selfies. And for those of us who will not be at the coast for this coming week, please
wasalimie. I agree, but I want to note, or the most important thing is that aspect of the fact that this is a boost to the tourism sector. Still tells us that we still have a chance, and we need not to worry. Remember, we also said that in as much as we're trying to deal with COVID-19, it is important that we keep our tourism sector alive. So Tembea Kenya, if we can, just be careful at the end of the day.
And you know that, as you mentioned, COVID-19, it's one of the worst hit sectors actually. So we are hoping that even as she comes in, we'll also be able to profile other high octane guests who will be able to come, and even local tourists. When our governors go to the coast, we want to see good stories, not just nasty stories which do not sell our local tourism. So I hope that this will also bring in some sense into the Ministry of Tourism to be able to begin to look at how then do we entice guests to come into Kenya and to boost our tourism industry, particularly as we also look forward to schools opening on 4th of January, and then use that to motivate Kenyans to just begin to get back into the economy and make it stronger.
All right, yes, I agree. Matters Health still here. Healthcare workers accuse state of playing down their concerns. The menace is on. The health sector is just something else.
This place looks familiar.
This
is one of those Nyanza facilities, Kisumu,
And I had Governor Nyong'o the other day who said everything is okay in Kisumu County.
You see, Linda, one of the things that our leaders really need to, let me call them our politicians, need to do is to feel the people, feel the ground, and act people's interests.
Right.
It's good for them to say those kind of statements, particularly when they are talking about the work which they have done and also addressing the press. But I think at the grassroots level and from governance and leadership perspective, we have a very strong infrastructure. And even at the health facilities, we have what is called the Health Management Committee, which is also a mix of both private, government, and non-governmental agencies, or citizens whose interest is in health. And so when they submit reports, and even during COVID-19, we also have the COVID-19 County Response Task Force, which also is a mix of government and non-governmental individuals.
Yes.
I think government needs to be very keen to listen to what the people are saying, because even as at County Governance Watch and having partnered with the Council of Governors, we were able to train young people and women and persons with various disabilities to sit in some of these COVID-19 task force response teams. And the kind of reports that they're saying, some of them even say they don't know when the meetings are called, when they raise issues, they are never taken seriously. Some meetings are called and the venues are changed and they're not informed. There are tactics, in my view, which government that, any government that is interested in output that is responsive to the desires of the people really need to begin to think through what are the people saying and how can we respond to those kind of issues, because they have the money. In my view, they have a lot of money to be able to boost health, the health sector. And so COVID-19 is really a telltale. It's really brought us closer to who we really are. And I think we should not waste this kind of opportunity to make our health care and even all the other sectors stronger.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. And there's also a conversation that we have, because we'll be having a health expert, later on in the broadcast. We also get to hear his view on the same. And still, this is now the Daily Nation, and why Ruto beat Raila in Kipple. I don't know whether it is so. You probably hold a different opinion. But we'll be getting to know about that later on as we proceed on the broadcast. A story captured on page 6 and 7 of the Daily Nation. And Kenyans to get COVID-19 vaccine from February.
Interesting.
Is it?
Yeah. I was talking to some friends from the US who are saying, oh yeah, now we are getting ready, and Kenya has set an example, because one of the test cases is a Kenyan doctor. I know there's been a bigger global issue around the vaccine, and also regional concern, rather continental, given Africa and why African countries are seemingly being termed as laggards, particularly when it comes to this kind of vaccine. But you also remember that Africa, the kind of numbers that we were able to present, COVID-19 numbers in terms of deaths and even infections, I think were not what the global leaders expected to see. And so whether that is also contributing to why Africa is not very keen to take this vaccine is a question. But I think of particular interest is what the headline says, which is Kenyans to get that vaccine, because if it is a vaccine that is going to help us to deal with COVID-19 and so stop the kind of deaths that we are seeing, and also the kind of infections that are spiraling every day, why not? And I think our government, through the Ministry of Health, therefore, and also Kenya Association of Vaccines, it's called KAVI, I think, need to come up very strong to begin to train, or rather take Kenyans through what this means. You know, issues of civic, whether it's called civic education or now health education, for Kenyans to understand why it is important for us to be vaccinated, and also what this means towards the war on COVID-19. I think it's very important.
And I'm sure you've seen this. I don't know whether I called it a joke or that has been making rounds, that, we'd rather have our politicians have the vaccine first, so in the event that it backfires.
I agree.
You think you're...
And you know why? It's because of the manner in which they have responded to really COVID-19. They've not done very well. We are talking BBI, for example, when doctors and our frontline soldiers, healthcare workers are passing on due to COVID-19. People are seeking for healthcare at the health facilities, no drugs, no medicine, no nothing. And then they are out there saying, we are standing strong. I think in his Jamhuri address, the president was very categorical around efforts that Kenya has made insofar as COVID-19 is concerned. But I think we need to see the words being spoken and also action being put into the words which are said. So if we are going to have the vaccine here in Kenya, we want to see all those 600 plus,
Yes.
you know, being the first ones to parade to be
Taking that
vaccinated.
out. All right. And speaking of which, indeed, the paralysis in hospitals, pain and suffering as health workers strike continues to bite. A story captured on the back page. And well, as we get to wind up in a minute or so, this one, Nairobi residents will still suffer the inconvenience of dry taps today and tomorrow, with a planned shutdown of a key pipeline as a result of the ongoing construction of the Nairobi Expressway.
Why today and tomorrow? Nairobians have always suffered
always-
for the last 6 years. I think
yeah, that's
since
the most
2013.
unfortunate thing.
Yeah, for which cartels are very keen to
Yes.
be able to. This one only is responsive to the cartels. They're the ones who will shut down the taps, then have their big lorries written clean water or tap water going. So this really, I think, is only it should be, you know, should be touching on the cartels. But otherwise, there is a lot that needs to be done for Nairobi to really have proper water. We've also had water wars. Murang'a and Nairobi have been fighting for the longest time possible. And so I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done when it comes to water that comes to Nairobi, because Nairobi is a capital city.
Yes.
And if you are to look at the kind of ablution areas within the city, there are so many toilets here, toilets there.
Right.
If we don't have proper water, then sanitation issues begin to come in.
Yes.
And then we bring in health issues. And imagine an outbreak, for instance, of cholera in Nairobi. What would that mean? So as we talk about today and tomorrow in terms of dry taps, I think let the people concerned look for a very long-lasting solution that will be able to address the water issues in Nairobi.
Okay, well, the Standard newspaper captures all the stories we've touched on, apart from two, the man killing our football. Of course, they've done a proper report on that. Nick Mwendwa is on the sport, and also there's another story that is some good news, at least also. That man, and maybe they call it justice at last, that man whose wife forced their teenage daughter to claim he had defiled her is officially free. That was a story that was captured in one of the local stations, and it was indeed such a sad story. But here we are, freedom at last. I think it is worth celebrating. Page 2 and 3 is about Nick Mwendwa, the football. I think that is a whole different story that we might need to touch on some other time, unless you want to say something in 30 seconds as we close it.
Nick Mwendwa needs to be a good leader. You know, many times people confuse both of us because they think we look alike. And
thank
so
you for saying that. I just wanted you to say it for you.
They're talking about sports, and so I get to hear a lot that is going on in that industry, despite the fact that I am not a very keen, ardent fan of really what sports is doing in Kenya. But I think this is a story. These are stories that keep coming up every day.
Yeah.
Nick, therefore, as a young leader, somebody who's been progressive and was also, you know, brought in, profiled from very grassroots clubs within some of our Eastland areas. He needs to really be a leader that people can easily approach and talk to, and then act on what you are being asked to act on. I think he's not been doing very well.
And he still has the chance to, you know, do something to redeem that. So, well, while it lasts, I hope he's able to listen to the cry of many and, you know, just bring some level of sanity or lost, you know, revive the lost glory within the sports sector. Thank you so much, Kevin Osido. Let's close it at now. And, of course, cross over to the other side of the studio. We'll be looking at the discussions of the day. Remember, we'll touch on the Sonko matter, that is on the aspect of impeachment, BBI. Well, technically, that will incorporate the Msambweni by-elections and also matters held after this break.
Ebindaya tanu, ebindaya moyo, ebindaya time, ebindaya nguma, kwata kawaya, kwata view. Hey, what's up? My name is Movie, and thank you. For the last 3 months, we've been watching Coffee with Movie. Nasema ni asante, nashukuru. Thank you for the suggestions, for the opinions, for the suggestions of who you want us to have, and the better ideas of how we can modify this show to suit you as best as possible. Nataka niwawish Merry Christmas, Happy Brand New Year 2021. Au sio? It will be bigger, greater, fuller, excellenter. Au sio? I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New 2021, yo.
We let you take us through your journey.
The report of the scan came out. The doctor told us that the scan is showing my baby had already passed on.
I don't like people standing too close to me. I don't like people standing behind me.
And give hope after beating all odds.
We don't choose how we are born. We don't choose how we are raised. The choices we have in this life are virtually limited.
Only on Confessions with Maria every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sande Yesu, sande mwami. Mtumishi hapa, hapa unichasero. Vaya niweze kumushinda shetani. Sande Yesu. Tuko ndani ya TV47, don't move, usisonge, pakia hapo. Na tuna hang out na Coffee with Mbuvi. Na tunaelekea wakati wa Christmas. Please, share. Ukiona kakitu tu, pitia mahali wachia mtu na utachaswa na roho ya TV47. Hapa unichasero. Niweze kumushinda shetani. Sande Yesu, wacha nimalizie chai.
Ebindaya seyo, ebindaya tanu, ebindaya moyo, ebindaya thime, ebindaya nguma, kwata kawaya, kwate vyo. Hey, what's up? My name is Mbuvi, and thank you. For the last 3 months, we've been watching Coffee with Mbuvi. Nasema ni asante, nashukuru. Thank you for the suggestions, for the opinions, for the suggestions of who you want us to have, and the better ideas of how we can modify this show to suit you as best as possible. Nataka niwawish Merry Christmas, Happy Brand New Year 2021. Au sio? It will be bigger, greater, fuller, excellenter. Au sio? I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New 2021, yo.
We let you take us through your journey.
The report of the scan came out. The doctor told us that the scan is showing my baby had already passed on.
I don't like people standing too close to me. I don't like people standing behind me.
And give hope after beating all odds.
We don't choose how we are born. We don't choose how we are raised. The choices we have in this life are virtually limited.
Only on Confessions with Maria every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sande Yesu, sande mwami. Mtumishi hapa unichasero. Vaya niweze kumushinda shetani. Sande Yesu. Tuko ndani ya TV47, don't move, usisonge, pakia hapo. Na tuna hang out na Coffee with Mbuvi. Na tunaelekea wakati wa Christmas. Please, share. Ukiona kakitu tu, pitia mahali wachia mtu na utachaswa na roho ya TV47. Hapa unichasero. Niweze kumushinda shetani. Sande Yesu, wacha nimalizie chai.
Ebindaya seyo, ebindaya tanu, ebindaya moyo, ebindaya thime, ebindaya nguma, kwata kawaya, kwate vyo. Hey, what's up? My name is Mbuvi, and thank you. For the last 3 months, we've been watching Coffee with Mbuvi. Nasema ni asante, nashukuru. Thank you for the suggestions, for the opinions, for the suggestions of who you want us to have, and the better ideas of how we can modify this show to suit you as best as possible. Nataka niwawish Merry Christmas, Happy Brand New Year 2021. Au sio? It will be bigger, greater, fuller, excellenter. Au sio? I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New 2021, yo.
We let you take us through your journey.
The report of the scan came out. The doctor told us that the scan is showing my baby had already passed on.
I don't like people standing too close to me. I don't like people standing behind me.
And give hope after beating all odds.
We don't choose how we are born. We don't choose how we are raised. The choices we have in this life are virtually limited.
Only on Confessions with Maria every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sande Yesu, sande mwami. Mtumishi hapa unichasero. Vaya niweze kumushinda shetani. Sande Yesu. Tuko ndani ya TV47, don't move, usisonge, pakia hapo na tuna hang out na Coffee with Mbuvi na tunaelekea wakati wa Christmas. Please share. Ukiona kakitu tu, pitia mahali wachia mtu na utachaswa na roho ya TV47. Papa unichase roho, niweze kumushinda shetani. Sunday wacha nimalizie chai.
Ebindaye seyo, ebindaye tanu, ebindaye moyo, ebindaye thime, ebindaye nguma, kwataka wayaka kwateka vyo. Hey, what's up? My name is Mbuvi and thank you. For the last 3 months we've been watching Coffee with Mbuvi. Nasema ni asante, nashukuru. Thank you for the suggestions, for the opinions, for the suggestions of who you want us to have and the better ideas of how we can modify this show to suit you as best as possible. Nataka ni wish Merry Christmas, Happy Brand New Year 2021. Au sio? It will be bigger, greater, fuller, excellenter. Au sio? I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New 2021, yo.
We let you take us through your journey.
The report of the scan came out. The doctor told us that the scan is showing my baby had already passed on.
I don't like people standing too close to me. I don't like people standing behind me.
And give hope after beating all odds.
We don't choose how we are born. We don't choose how we are raised. The choices we have in this life are virtually limited.
Only on Confessions with Maria every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sunday mwami. Mtumishi hapa. Papa unichase roho, bayayi niweze kumushinda shetani. Sunday tuko ndani ya TV47, don't move, usisonge, pakia hapo na tuna hang out na Coffee with Mbuvi na tunaelekea wakati wa Christmas. Please share. Ukiona kakitu tu, pitia mahali wachia mtu na utachaswa na roho ya TV47. Papa unichase roho, niweze kumushinda shetani. Sunday wacha nimalizie chai.
Ebindaye seyo, ebindaye tanu, ebindaye moyo, ebindaye thime, ebindaye nguma, kwataka wayaka kwateka vyo. Hey, what's up? My name is Mbuvi and thank you. For the last 3 months we've been watching Coffee with Mbuvi. Nasema ni asante, nashukuru. Thank you for the suggestions, for the opinions, for the suggestions of who you want us to have and the better ideas of how we can modify this show to suit you as best as possible. Nataka ni wish Merry Christmas, Happy Brand New Year 2021. Au sio? It will be bigger, greater, fuller, excellenter. Au sio? I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New 2021, yo.
We let you take us through your journey.
The report of the scan came out. The doctor told us that the scan is showing my baby had already passed on.
And the Facebook page also, that is TV47 and the hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV47KE. We get to sample some of the comments that you will be sending us this morning. Of course, of concern is what it is that we'll be discussing. We touch on the crucial matters that are making headlines right here in the country. We do not forget the Sonko impeachment proceedings at the level of the Senate. We also discuss the bedeviled health sector, and we'll be having a doctor on board who gives us his view on how we are doing so far in terms of dealing with this. And importantly, we discuss the BBI, couple it up with a lot of activities, the political activities that have taken center stage right here in the country, and amongst, a raft of other issues that are of importance. So karibu sana. Joining me for this conversation, once again, we still hold governance expert Kevin Osido from the County Governance Watch. Good to have you, Kevin Osido, once again. And we also have Dr. Moses Mwangi, who will be joining us on Skype, and of course will be telling us some more on what his view is. He is a politician, he's equally a doctor. And last but not least, we have Honorable James Gakuya, who's the Member of Parliament, Embakasi North. Good to have you. And I think we'll start with Mheshimiwa. Mheshimiwa, wanasiasa mnatusumbua sana. Is it so?
But I don't think that's the case, because politicians are people's elected representatives.
Right.
So they are not Buddha.
Are they representing us, or are they just giving us?
No. Even what happened.
Or it is that whatever it is that they present to us is what is getting us feeling like, you know. I mean, because you've had constantly that people say that, well, politicians will always think about their own interests as opposed to the interest of Mwananchi. So in that case, then there lacks some aspect of representation.
I would like to say that, in fact, there are two characters in terms of politics,
yes.
Politicians. Because politicians, you need to know that actually every politician has a duty. One, there is what we call demarcation of what we call duties, where executive carries the holders of those positions who are politicians,
yes.
But they have their own designed or designated duties within the Constitution. Parliament has its elected leaders with designated authority or power given by the Constitution, where their powers or duties is to legislate, represent, and oversight the government.
Okay.
And also we have the Senate, which is also another political office, where they represent the views of the counties, and also they adjudicate what we call the issues to do with devolutions. And therefore, at the end of the day, whenever there is politics, there is always that smoke, because politicians, their power is when they speak.
Yes.
And after those speeches, maybe you may think that there's a big war. But at the end of the day, we find that actually, whether there is a clamor or what, at the end of the day, we find these guys at the end of the day dining together.
All right, and speaking of which then, Kevin Osido, I want to assume that when we're talking about governance, we are looking at a whole perspective of not just the leadership, but equally the people and how they receive this governance. And what Mheshimiwa says is that reality is that with them, they will always go on podiums that would act as though they are fighting, but in real sense, they are good friends on the ground. But such is not with the common Mwananchi. You will find them fighting courtesy of what it is that their preferred politicians say to the other, or, you know, what they received from the other. So in this case, then do you suppose that we probably need to go back to the drawing board and get our people understanding first the role of these leaders? Because like Mheshimiwa says, members of parliament, their roles are clearly cut in the constitution, which most of the Kenyans have not read. So sometimes when they look at them as failures. They look at them as, oh, hii barabara yangu si mzuri, it is because Mheshimiwa you're chewing my money. And maybe that is not within their mandate. Do we need to have a session where we can get our people knowing really what governance is, leadership is, and the role of their specific leaders that they elect?
You know, probably one of the things that Mheshimiwa is not telling us is how he was elected.
Okay.
Because even the people who vote will not just vote for someone who sits at the corner and waits for things to be done. He must have profiled himself, he must have done certain things for him to be elected. But the second thing which he is also not telling us is why, when we are struggling together, he picks phone calls. But ultimately, when he now gets to the August House, he does not.
We never get to.
And I'm just using him as a resemblance of the many.
Yes.
But I like what you're raising, coupled with what Mheshimiwa has rightfully said, the three arms of government. They must work very, very well, and of course also together. And our constitution says they are dependent and interdependent.
Yes.
So the executive cannot work alone. Legislature, where he sits, cannot work alone, and also the judiciary, where our law courts and all these magistrates and the Kadhi courts are domiciled, also cannot work alone. But now, the role of the citizen is very, very critical. It is critical in the sense that when at the level when they involve the citizens is only when they are looking for votes, and that is when the citizen also feels like I am being given my prime place within the space, the political space. The moment these votes have already been cast and people have walked out, nobody even bothers. And I think Msambweni, for instance, should be a case study. We saw the amount of rush. You know, over 80 elected leaders at very high level government, positions, senators, governors were there for almost 8 days. I am looking forward to seeing how they the environment is going to change from next week, when now people begin to ask for maji ulisema utatupatia iko wapi. Young people now want jobs, and I am looking forward to seeing how the interrelationship and then the integration between the leaders and the people is going to be looking at. But remember, as I finish on this, is that part of what we've also not done very well as a people is at two levels. One is transparency and accountability. So you spoke about water, you spoke about roads, and people know that there are resources that are supposed to, that have been given to our leaders to be able to dispense certain functions. But no one audits. People don't want to audit, and then the leaders also don't want to be audited. The second thing is lack of proper civic education. So we have also not invested a lot in terms of ensuring that the citizens understand, like the issue you raised about the Constitution. What does the Constitution say? So can the leaders also consider that when they take podiums and they are talking to the citizens, please, in addition to your propaganda, also enlighten the citizens so that they can be able to understand. One thing that Kenya did very well when we had Minister for Justice, the late Mutula Kilonzo, was we had a curriculum on civic education, which was a standard measure for any institution, whether government, faith-based or non-governmental, that wants to engage citizens. You open that book and it takes you through things that you need to look at. When the Jubilee government came into office, the president said, we don't need this kind of measures. Kenyans know how to vote, they will read it. But over time, you see the gaps that are quite evident in terms of how governance and politics is being done in this country. It is therefore incumbent that we go back to that level and begin to ask ourselves, can we have a curriculum? Can we have a tool? Can we have a mechanism to be able to civic educate our people?
Okay, and we're headed to that moment of campaigns. And honestly speaking, now we'll have our Mheshimiwas on ground. We'll definitely have them. I mean, I'm sure Mheshimiwa must be having, ambitions. And we also have Daktari, who will be joining us via Skype, who seeks to achieve, the gubernatorial position in Murang'a County. The kinds of things that are sold to us, honestly, are the ones that get us thinking that, Mheshimiwa is supposed to come on ground and do this. We really do not have a clear-cut understanding of the mandates that are bestowed upon different, leadership positions for that matter. Mheshimiwa, for instance, you probably, during your campaigns, I don't know, you had promises for your people and all that. One of the biggest things that we have been promised today is the fact that the health sector is going to, be made better for every other common to be able to access, and not just access, but access it proper. And that's where we have President Uhuru Kenyatta talking about the universal coverage and a couple of other things that he seeks to meet before he exits the stage. But the health sector today is not one to look at and smile about. Worst is that so much money has been channeled towards that. Worst is that now fingers are being pointed at the counties, but we know very well that even within Parliament, there is a committee that is tasked to address the issues of health.
Oh, yeah. I would say that our issues to do with health, what you call public health, is not well taken well care of. And where we made mistake is where we made swift devolving strategies. Where we immediately, the Jubilee took over the government. The health ministry was one of the three devolved areas that actually were immediately devolved. I would say that, in fact, it could be wiser if the issues to do with health were slowly devolved instead of just haphazardly devolving it the way it was done. And we realized that, in fact, today we are getting very tough areas. Because after that particular transfer of factions and transfer of what we call human resources, it's like there are some teething issues which have not come clear to date. And the biggest problem is that we have governors who, most of them are the first timers in this particular term. They are not, and actually because it's very true that there are those who didn't manage to come or to get their second term.
Yes.
But the problem is that actually we find every governor, when it comes to power, he also just have what we call promises with his team, campaigners and office, and he won't just to seal some deal to make sure that at least some of his team is being part of his crew in the county.
Right.
And therefore, you find that there is those that team that is currently being transferred, and then the governor wants also to employ part of his team, and also then we find that there's a gray area where resources does not work very well. We find that there is what we call grants. Grants are devolved to the directed to the user who is the county government. But the problem is that this particular grant does not go direct to the user department. Maybe the user department is that particular hospital at the corner, but when the resources come to the kitty of the county, it is in that manner is being taken elsewhere, and it does not get its way to the user. And that's why we find that most of the hospitals are lacking drugs. Most of the hospital staffs are in this quagmire because this facilitation of PPEs is not available, drugs are not available, and therefore I would say it is a lack of proper management. But if the county government, because I believe these are governments, if they can streamline themselves and make sure that actually they provide prudent management, they can manage and they can make it. Because not agents will do it. And if it is done by the central government or the national government up there, I believe it is also doable down there.
All right.
What we need to have is just the governors to give goodwill to the team and also to leave elements of what we call
yes.
Allow, just leave and let it live.
All right.
So that at least as you adopt your crew, make sure that this team which was transferred to you, adopt it and make it part of your team.
Right.
So that at least we can be able to move forward. And it is like a member of parliament coming in, finding some project that a complete project with the previous member, and then this fellow decides he cannot complete those projects. And that was part of public money.
Okay.
That is where we go wrong. Because what you must do is when you have, just come in, just do your audit, make sure that what is not complete, make sure it is complete and functional.
Okay, Mheshimiwa, we have Dr. Moses on Skype. And Daktari, to engage you, one, with the political interest that you do have, seeking to garner the gubernatorial seat of Murang'a. And this then tells you that in the event that you're able to get this, the health of Murang'a County will squarely be on your hands, at least for now, if we only have this constitution as it stands. The question then would be, you've been, in the health sector, sat at big boards for that matter, KEMSA included, and so much has been happening, so much funding, channeled towards this, but things do not seem to go on well. My question to you is that, this morning would be, what is it that we've not been doing right? We know that there's graft, we know that corruption is indeed a problem, we lack accountability, but just what is this one thing that we probably need to tweak? And maybe we can start having a conversation of where we have transformed our health sector.
Thank you very much, and allow me to greet my fellow panelists and to greet the listeners.
Just a moment, Mheshimiwa. Allow us to have, our Daktari's voice on this other side, so at least my fellow gentlemen can also get to hear that. I'm the only one who's able to hear Daktari, so I think it's only fair that we fix that audio, so at least the gentleman can. Now, let's proceed.
Yes, let me greet my fellow panelists and greet all the viewers of TV47, wherever you are. Just to weigh in and say that what is it that we get wrong? When we talk interchangeably between politicians, leaders, and managers. There is a disconnect between the theory and the practice. In theory, our constitution anticipates that when we elect people through a political process, whether into gubernatorial position like I want to be in Murang'a or into member of parliament, the theory is that those politicians are then leaders, or they were leaders who are now seeking a position to exercise leadership. Unfortunately, that process does not always work, because the person who gets elected sometimes have very little leadership role, very little experience, even in management of issues. In fact, quite a number of our so-called political leaders have, when you look at their background, they don't have that kind of experience. And therefore, eventually, we have people who are presiding over functions that they are least qualified for. And therefore, you end up deploying the wrong people in various ways. For example, when we talk about the healthcare system, and I want to agree with Mheshimiwa Gakuya that we rushed into devolution. I also want to say that in many aspects, involving healthcare has improved services. It is not that before devolution, Kenya was doing that well, health-wise. No, we were not. There was, I personally, in my many years of service in the healthcare industry, as a leader in the pharmaceutical industry, as working in Kenya Health Federation, we struggled to get the Ministry of Health, the people who are there, we struggled to get them to see what is it we need. Just remember the Abuja Declaration that proposed that 15% budget was to health. That has never happened. And therefore, Wajiko has a very, very important role. And I want to agree with Osil. There is very little civic education. When voters come to vote, they vote on populism rather than people who will do or provide service. Our constitution had anticipated that this time round we would have what we call servant leaders, not people who are looking after their self-interests, but people who are interested in ensuring that that health center in a remote corner of a village has the right personnel, has the right resources in terms of whether it is gloves, whether it is even simple needles that sometimes patients have to buy, whether it is the right medicine. And therefore, I would like to say, going forward, we need to see more people who are true leaders, who have tested management skills going into governorship. And then for the positions of, for example, National Assembly or Senate, yes, we still need leaders, but we need a bit more political argument at that level. So if we place people at the right place, for me, if we think about the healthcare, number one, healthcare personnel should never have been devolved. The way we retained the Teachers Service Commission to look after teachers nationally is the way we should have done for healthcare personnel to have a health service commission that looks after that.
Daktari, allow me to loop in this other gentleman. And I think right on that note, Kevin Osido, sometimes, well, we have this conversation and we've had doctors numerously, or, a couple of times saying that, maybe in the first place we wouldn't have devolved health and maybe we should have a health commission. He notes that even before health was devolved, even before we go to that level of devolution, we still had issues. And true to it, they keep mentioning, the Teachers Service Commission. But we also have troubles within the Teachers, Service Commission. And today, they have even threatened that by the time they're going back to school, there's going to be a strike in the event that, what it is that they agreed with the government is not met.
Linda, the challenge with our country, because Kenya has very good policies on paper.
Yes.
But the practice, like Daktari has rightfully said it, is very different. In fact, in most cases, we do the opposite. Interesting to note is that there are other countries in Asia, for instance, who have borrowed best practices from East Africa, particularly from Kenya. And why within our locality it cannot be done sometimes is really difficult to tell. But right now we know why it is sometimes difficult. And I think when we began this conversation, we've already alluded to some of those issues. And one which we have also not mentioned is corruption. And so the contribution of corruption to the mess in our health sector is very evident. But maybe before I get there is to look at what you're mentioning, the Health Service Commission.
Right.
When Mheshimiwa Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o, who is the governor of Kisumu, was the then health minister in around 2007 to when there's a time when he was a health minister. There was a proposal to have this kind of an issue, and how it was then, how it fizzled out from the discussions is something that is very difficult to tell. But I know that probably part of the concerns were the levels of healthcare that we have, level 1, level 2, up to the level 6, where we have the referral hospitals.
Yes.
How do you manage issues of transfers? How do you manage issues of attrition? How do you manage issues of capacity building for healthcare workers? And so it's a big conundrum of many things, which therefore needs to be done. And government alone cannot be able to do this.
Right.
Over 30% of the health sector is actually non-governmental.
Yes.
There needs to be a conversation around how do we bring in private sector to the table to speak about this? How do we bring in faith-based organizations whose interest is in the health sector? Because we know the number of hospitals in this country that are either sponsored, built by, or supported by these non-governmental institutions. Then lastly is there is need for us to put in place proper policies and acts that will be able, rather laws, that will be able to support the healthcare system, so that then we are able to look at how do we manage the human resource element of it, how do we finance, but also allow for these laws to be able to support the system to move, because it is not just a sector, it is a system. And a system is, for example, an engine of a car or a bicycle. It has to have 2 pedals. If you have a bike that only has 1 pedal, of course there are bikes that only have 1 pedal, but it's a unique bicycle. But under normal conventional systems, you will have a bike that has 2 pedals. And so that is more or less the same way I would look at the health system. So that then we have government willing to engage with non-governmentals, but also with a very critical focus on the primary beneficiaries. And then lastly, Linda, is our waheshimiwas, our leaders, including those who have served in government and have retired, don't go to public health facilities.
Yes.
They spend lots of monies going to China, to Dubai, to India, to Singapore to seek for health care.
Should we curtail them from...
Yet, they don't go to Kenyatta National. They don't go to Mbagathi. They don't go to Mama Lucy, where now, for the case of Nairobi, there's a very heavy investment of resources to be able to boost it up. But when they fall sick, it's either Nairobi Hospital, or they are choppered into Dubai, or they are choppered into India. We must begin to push them. For example, Mheshimiwa Gakuya here, when God decides to give you a break from being very healthy to getting sick and then you get well,
God forbid,
go to Kenyatta National. And then when he sits in Bunge, or when our MCS sit at the county assembly, they have personal experiences.
All right, Mheshimiwa, and true to it, as we close this on the aspect of health, we've looked at the broader perspective, what would be the long-term solutions, but we still have a crisis right now as it stands. The nurses are out of hospitals, people are losing their lives, the situation is terrible, so to speak. What really needs to be done? Is the government genuine at all? Osido says that it is necessary that it partners, with the private sector towards boosting this. But every other time they sit in meetings, they come up with agreements. Why do they come up with agreements knowing very well that these agreements cannot be achieved?
Let me say, one, we have a unique problem as a nation. And this problem we have is that, in fact, we have what we call sectors that are always on demand.
Okay.
It's like what we generate does not meet the end. Because you find that we have like teachers. Teachers up to date, there is those collective bargaining. Those up to date, some have not been realized. Some have not been achieved. And you find most of these collective bargaining because they are done on a hurry ensuring the crisis. And therefore, whoever is in the center of this discussion does not be in that particular discussion in sincerity. Then you find that there's a lot of what we call hypocrisy in these collective bargains, agreements, both in the health sector and that education sector. What we can say, leader, is that Kenya promulgated its new constitution in 2010, and it is now operational. And we have what we call SRC. And if we have to respect our institutions, I believe the tax the tax given or powers and authority given by the constitution to that particular commission is to deal with harmonizing the salaries and allowances all over. And I think so far, if the unions are genuine enough, there is every good reason to have what we call sittings and have amicable solutions with SRC. Because I am finding that actually at the end of the day, everything is domiciled there, that we cannot be able to move out of the law. Even though we take this matter to court, at the end of the day, the SRC will just come and present their case, and at the end of the day, you find that there is no way that actually they will get something on top without clear arrangement and agreement with that particular commission. In this particular case, we shall be decongesting work, because it's like we have piled every work, every single work at the top, and then it's like the president have the key or solution to everything. These commissions, these authorities, these agencies were created to decongest the works of the head of state, so that at least there is those people, those agencies, those commissions assisting him. But if we say he must be the say to everything, this country depends on budgets. If the budgets are done today and health sector is given this much, I don't think there is a miracle for the health sector to think that actually the roads are not going to be done, so that the money can be removed from the road sector to the health sector. Then if we can bring ourselves in terms of planning and budgeting. That's when we can bring ourselves. So that at least if we are budgeting little, that's not enough for the sector. Then we get back to that universe and address that matter.
And what we risk today is the fact that there is a lot of political interest that is ongoing, and also there's that aspect and fear of the unknown. And when we're talking about political interest, is that we've seen in most cases some of these sectors and the unions will always take short-term solutions as opposed to the bigger picture for the sake of the interest of a few.
I worked with the City Council of Nairobi, and the City Council of Nairobi have union. Those unions are compromisable. At some times of crisis, they are coming and we compromise them, and then the work gets on.
That's our fear today.
I'm telling you, that cycle is where the problem is. I think Kenya should do away with this commission, with these unions, and independently we'll be able to negotiate.
Daktari, this is likely to happen again. And honestly, while we might look at it as though it's a funny affair, but it's a reality on ground. And most of the times we've had some of these teachers, some of these doctors saying that their union members or their union heads have been compromised. Now we are looking at the BBI. The conversation is here. I can almost guarantee you that the proponents are scared of how the medical sector will approach this, and whether indeed they're going to give them a nod or not, courtesy of what they're going through. I have had doctors on set who said they were supporting the BBI until they realized that that aspect of the them having a commission has been scrapped off within this particular document. So in that case, they will not they will not proceed to support it. So it's a question of give and take, nipe nikupe. Do we risk a scenario where again we're going to have a short-term solution just because some people are trying to be enticed to get into this side or into this bandwagon?
Let's look at very, very quickly. Even if the union for teachers have issue, how do they get on the table? On that table, you have the TSC.
Yes.
And they negotiate as the employer. On that table, you can bring in the cabinet secretary, and you have sorted the problem for the entire nation. For health, who should be on that table? Health is devolved. People are employed by 47 different governments, because every county government is a government. You have a national government. Getting on the table becomes complex. And therefore, that is the fury and the interest in a commission, because then at a national level, you will have the commission, you will bring in the cabinet secretary for health, you will resolve the issues, number one. Now, to say that we don't have unions, really, if you look at the history of employment relationship, when it comes to certain cadres, you need a collective agreement. Otherwise, there will be slavery. You know, part of dealing with slavery is bringing people together. But having said that, the architecture of our nation, the way that we have set ourselves, you know, Kenya we even said we are a middle-income country.
Yeah.
When you look at the taxes that we collect, and we look at what we plan to do with the taxes that we collect, there's a disconnect. Some people are paid very, very high salaries. Some people are paid very low salaries. I think the interest of having an SRC was to try and see whether we can harmonize. But as we do that, we need to sort out governance, because we have a governance problem in our country.
Okay.
And I dare say, my colleague panelist talked about corruption. All these things are interlinked, and they are so much interlinked that we need a leader at a national level who is able to help the country come together, help the country be able to deal with the issues without having to cross over them. And therefore, the CBAs eventually become a paper because they were done basically to suit the political interest of the day. I think it's very important. If you want to buy a broom that sweeps very well, you need to ask the person who is sweeping, what kind of a broom do you need?
Okay.
If you want to have a proper healthcare system in Kenya, you need to bring the healthcare practitioners. And I want to just weigh in and say, when we think about health in Kenya, healthcare system, 51% of healthcare infrastructure is in the public sector. 49% is in the private sector. When you talk about private, we include private for no loss. I like to call them, other people call it private for no profit, like the mission hospital. So you see, healthcare is divided right in the middle.
Yeah.
Why is it that in the private sector, whether it is in mission hospitals, why is it that you don't see healthcare personnel going on strike?
Okay.
Why? There is a very proper organization. For example, in provision of PPEs, in provision of pharmaceuticals and non-pharmaceuticals, we have an organization called Mission for Essential Drug Services. It buys the same way KEMSA buys. And then these medicines are ordered by the mission hospital and they are available. Right. They have very few resources, but they are able to provide service to the extent that even at a very rural level, where there is a mission hospital, you will find that a very poor person preferring to go to the mission hospital than to go to the public because there is proper organization. Now, the Minister for Health must be the minister for the whole health of Kenya. Okay. Sometimes they focus on the 51%. There are no private people in Kenya. All of us are Kenyans. Health is a right. So we need to reorganize our governance and even the fraternity. There is a lot of insincerity in our leadership. So we have a governance problem. Why? Because we have the wrong people sitting in the wrong places, making wrong decisions for our nation.
Okay, and Daktari, we have a governance expert here who probably would think otherwise or would agree to what it is that you say, and that brings us to the conversation of the BBI fully. And the argument is that, well, while we might say that we need that moment of changing the constitution, of incorporating, great clauses within the constitution in form of amendments that will be helpful to us dealing with some of the problems that we have. Also, people argue that our leaders are not cautious of the time, are not, well, I wouldn't want to say conscious, but are also not keen on understanding what our priorities as at now. And the health that we are discussing about is one that has been looked at as a main issue as to why we probably should not have a conversation on, constitutionalism at this particular time. Is it fair for us to think it that way in terms of governance?
When it comes to governance, and you see this is about different issues being presented, is about governing, who is governing, who is being governed, how are you governing, and where are you governing. So the where is a context within which we are operating. Number two, there is never an appropriate time to amend any constitution. I know people have made references to the US constitution, and there's over 200 amendments that they have had to go through, but yet this is one of the most promising. You go to South Africa, they have also amended their constitution, for which Kenya's constitution of the constitution of Kenya 2010 was heavily borrowed. You go to Nigeria, the same story. You go to Ghana, the same story. For our case in Kenya is purely because the leadership does not listen, or has deliberately refused to listen to the people that they are governing or the people that they are leading. And if we took the time to listen to the people that we are leading, then the question around priorities and whether it is either the right or the wrong time should not arise. Why? Because you have an opportunity to put structures that we call governance structures. For example, in the case of the BBI, you basically have committees, like what was called the BBI task force and then the steering committee, which is supposed to be a representation of the people that you are governing. Not a few people that you sit and then you say, we are going to have Mheshimiwa Linda, Mheshimiwa Gakuya, Mheshimiwa Daktari Moses and Kevin Osido to run through this process. And then people make noise and you still do not give them an opportunity to make their voices count. So what therefore needs to be done in dealing with that issue is ask these noisemakers, in quotes, who among your constituents is missing, then bring them to the table. So for instance, when we are talking about the health sector, Kenya, and the health sector is also organized. They have institutions that speak on their behalf, albeit depending on what they are saying. For nurses, you have National Union of Nurses of Kenya, you have KMPDU that speaks for doctors and practitioners, dentists and all that. You have non-teaching, or rather non-medical staff within the health sector. Allow them also to have their representatives to be part and parcel of this process. When that happens, Linda, then they come up with a document which then is validated within their own set unions or their own set governance structures and mechanisms, which then gives them opportunities to agree or disagree with what has been captured in that document. Then they now ultimately submit it to, for example, what we would call the BBI, steering committee or the task force. Now, Kenya is different because everything in this country is run politically. And the political class actually have a higher say in almost everything, including whether we go to church or not. They decide when we are going to our mosques because they can say, by the way, we will allow you to go, but only up to 100 people. Because if the 101 person will be arrested. And it's because the political class has the power to arrest. You know, the non-political class does not have that power to arrest. So that already presents an opportunity for us care. Now, the converse is also very true, that when people are effectively organized to be able to make their voices count, you deal with a lot of fear, you deal with a lot of suspicion, and you also allow people to have an opportunity to hold to account the agreements that have been put in place. Here, doctors and nurses can even strike for 112 days. But government is on, it is running. Government officers who get sick get ferried into choppers, even from their villages into Lee Funeral Home, as though there are no morgues in the villages, Linda. And these are things which, in my view, and again from your question, a governance perspective, do not present proper chances and opportunities for effective and efficient service delivery, for which is the interest of the common citizen. So when we are talking about the health system, maybe lastly is dialogue. There has to be an opportunity, like Daktari says, where you now have people to speak with and not at and for each other. The doctors come and say what the issues are. The county governments also come and say what their issues are. The national government will speak. And particularly when we have one of the big 4 agenda issues as universal health coverage, His Excellency the President should, and in my view, must be concerned about the kind of legacy that he wants to leave after, he wants to leave for Kenyans after he exits office, because it's very clear around universal health coverage. But Linda, interestingly, it is not working. So we need to have a conversation, a dialogue around why is it not working and what can we be able to do. Then that way, we will be able to respond to the governance issues that the health sector and all the other sectors, including the agriculture sector, are actually facing.
Well, President Uhuru Kenyatta at some point acknowledging that with what is happening politically, he is afraid that he might not be able to achieve the Big 4 agenda. But he's also hell-bent on ensuring that he gives us some amendments and some changes within the Constitution. Honorable Gakuya, we had them some by-elections that have largely been equated to what we're likely to witness on matters BBI, and also equated on what we're likely to witness come 2022. First of all, I'd love for you to rate the performance of the IEBC in terms of guaranteeing us a proper election, because as it stands, if we have to have a referendum, if we have to go for an election, there are high likelihoods that we'll still have the same commission.
Read allow me just to close that first chapter, to wind it up, and small rider. And this is that we as Kenyans, we need to evaluate ourselves, just assess ourselves where we have come from and where we are in and where we are heading to. One is that, in fact, I would like to say we don't require to have seen this every other time strikes for nurses or teachers. This is, to me, is very shameful. And now that we have a constitution that authorizes to have a devolved government, which is now the county, I believe the coming of the counties was to make sure that most of the older problems, those 8 problems, are going to be sorted by the current now system. It's very, very unfortunate that what we expected the counties to deliver is not anywhere near. Don't forget that during the former local authority, the then local authority, council like Nairobi were handling what we call social services, because we had our own housing, we had our own hospitals, we were managing them, we had our own schools, and we are managing them very prudently. Today, it's not going that direction. I'm asking myself, what is this not happening today that was happening then? And during the then is when the resources were not available. So therefore, I would like to say governors must give Kenyans a light. Because now this sector of health is now under their custody. They need to make sure that they put the health sector as a priority. And because every other county government reserves or sets aside the budget for health sector, I believe before doing anything else, make sure that what is pertaining to that health sector is done. Then put other things secondary in that. And going by that way, it's very hard for us to see these people on the street. And at that particular end, I would say, we have to have what we call, when we structured our new structure, we forget to have a monitoring route, how the ministry directly could monitor the resources that are being devolved or dispersed to the county. Issues to do with grants. Grants, there could be a policy within our laws that can be able to give what we call CS terrestrial power. If a county does not deliver or does not deliver this grant to the user, then that particular money can be changed directly to that user through the powers given by the Constitution to the or by Act of Parliament to that particular user by the CS Treasury. Number 2 is that in case we find a situation where the salaries are not getting to the pockets of the staff, then there is a window where the Treasury cannot be saying that he's powerless, that he cannot do anything. With consultation with the CS Health, then there can be a route where they can solve problem of that health sector down there.
Right.
And that way, we can have what we call flexible way of solving our problem. Moving now to the Msambweni. Msambweni, anyway, I would say it has come and it has found us. And Msambweni people have spoken. Also, there was other by-election at Gatuli and another one in Naivasha and another one at Kahawa. I would say Kenyans, to me, it's important to give them what you call their democratic right. And their democratic right is to exercise them through voting. And when they cast their vote, I think that die is cast. And we have nothing else to say because that is what the majority have dictated. And I would say, it is a good opener that at this stage we have seen. You may think that you are going to call a team of a creation of men for political teamwork, which may be able to deliver you to maybe a next election. Yeah. But Wanjiku is not in that particular, maybe in that particular basket. So it's very important for whoever is looking for a direction, whether it is this BBI. BBI can be real, but Wanjiku can shut it down. Yes. That's what Wanjiku stated at Msambweni, that if Wanjiku is not is not settled with this particular document, and I can see the manner in which it is being hurried, it is hurried on a manner that even what we call civic education has not been taken through to Wanjiku. All right. Wanjiku require one. This BBI now this BBI draft, I would say it is not the first. It is not equal to the first one. Okay. There are a lot of changes. These new changes, Wanjiku don't have to have been pushed to sign signatures, pushed to a referendum without have been taught. Because not every Wanjiku is keen to use this what we call soft gadgets to read the new BBI or even to read the hard copy. There are those Wanjikos who does not even understand the word yes or no, who require to be taken through. And therefore, there has to be what we call that mandatory civic education, so that everybody can be well informed what is heading to do and what is entitled for at that particular BBI.
When we're talking BBI,
making a decision, it will be easy for Wanjiku.
Well, they say we do not have the luxury of time, or the proponents at least argue that we do not have the luxury of time.
The luxury of time may not be there, but if it's not there, it will not be there, and we rush this monster to Wanjiku, then what you will say is that I don't know it. Then she put big X.
So sadly, they're going to lose it on that one. Dr. we're coming back to you, but first let's take a quick break, and we'll be coming back to get your views on the BBI and whether indeed you think that it is that one document that is going to amend the Constitution and probably give us an ultimate solution to some of the crucial issues that have been named with this within this particular document.
Ebindaya tanu, ebindaya moyo, ebindaya time, ebindaya nguma, kwataka wayaka kwataka view. Hey, what's up? My name is Movie, and thank you. For the last 3 months, we've been watching Coffee with Movie. Nasema ni asante, nashukuru. Thank you for the suggestions, for the opinions, for the suggestions of who you want us to have, and the better ideas of how we can modify this show to suit you as best as possible. Nataka niwawish Merry Christmas, Happy Brand New Year 2021. Au sio? It will be bigger, greater, fuller, excellenter. Au sio? I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New 2021, yo.
we let you take us through your journey.
The report of the scan came out. The doctor told us that the scan is showing my baby had already passed on.
I don't like people standing too close to me. I don't like people standing behind me.
And give hope after beating all odds.
We don't choose how we are born. We don't choose how we are raised. The choices we have in this life are virtually limited.
Only on Confessions with Maria every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sande Yesu, sande mwami. Mtumishi hapa, hapa unichase roho, bayaye niweze kumushinda shetani. Sande Yesu. Tuko ndani ya TV47, don't move, usisonge, pakia hapo na tuna hang out na Coffee with Mbuvi na tunaelekea wakati wa Christmas. Please share. Ukiona kakitu tu, pitia mahali wachia mtu na utachaswa na roho ya TV47. Hapa unichase roho, niweze kumushinda shetani. Sunday Yesu, acha nimalizie chai.
Ebindaya seyo, ebindaya tanu, ebindaya moyo, ebindaya thime, ebindaya nguma, kwataka wayaka, kwateka view. Hey, what's up? My name is Mbuvi and thank you. For the last 3 months we've been watching Coffee with Mbuvi. Nasema ni asante, nashukuru. Thank you for the suggestions, for the opinions, for the suggestions of who you want us to have and the better ideas of how we can modify this show to suit you as best as possible. Nataka niwawish Merry Christmas, Happy Brand New Year 2021. Au sio? It will be bigger, greater, fuller, excellenter. Au sio? I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New 2021, yo.
Well, still on the State of the Nation address, and the gentleman with me on set this morning, Kevin Osido, governance expert, Dr. Moses Mwangi, and we also have Honorable James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North. To you, Dr. We're still talking matters BBI and the significance of the votes that we witnessed yesterday, to the national politics. My question then would be, how then do they relate? Because in as much as we'd want to say that this were just mere by-elections, reality is that a majority have equated them to what would likely culminate, for the BBI 2022 politics, what it would mean for Right Honorable Raila Odinga, the DP, who are, the key figures on matters politics in the country, and equally, is being used as a litmus test to whether indeed IEBC is still stable enough to take us to an election. What do you make of yesterday's events and the general perspective of the BBI, briefly?
No, yesterday's vote in majority of the seats that were at stake, except one in Kahawa and Dani, where a Jubilee candidate was elected. All the other votes just is a vote against the establishment. Kenyans, the voters in those areas, basically went against what they saw as the current government position. They voted in the opposite direction. And that means that there should be a wake-up call to the leadership in place at the moment. The deputy president is part of the government, but somehow he has managed to position himself as if he was not part of the current government. So that would be what we would be looking at. BBI has some very good proposals. There are, of course, issues like that have reached there. There are very good proposals out there, and as Mheshimiwa Gakuya has rightly mentioned, the document we currently have, and the document that came out of, that was launched in Bomas 2, there are quite a number of changes that have taken place that people don't know. So there are good changes that are proposed, but if there is no effort to make sure that the Kenyans understand and appreciate these changes and own them as their own. Kenyans are likely to see that document as a government document, a government that they have no confidence in, so they could throw away the baby with the bathwater. And so I think there needs to be a pause. We do need to see some changes in our governance. We do need, at this point in time, as the president said, to have a constitutional moment. And that has to go on with Kenyans being involved. So even though there is a feeling that time is not there, time to do what? We are thinking about the BBI is not about the election 2020. Also, they have told us, and I believe so, because any changes in the constitution go beyond one election and another. I think we need to pause. We need to look at this and make sure that the Kenyans own at the moment. I don't think so. I am on the ground. I spend quite a little time between my work on the ground because I am looking at being governor, and I'm listening. And when you listen, you can see there is a total disconnect between Majiko and what is being pushed towards you. And I think there needs to be some serious, honest civic education. Ownership has to go back to the people. It's about Kenyans. It's not about who becomes president, who doesn't become. It's about all of us, how we get our country moving, how we get our education sector moving, how we get our agriculture moving, how the coffee, the tea, how they look at how we've been taken care of. What are the questions that they are asking? So, what is, if you want to push, if the top leadership, if you want to push, the vote yesterday showed you can push. And Wajiko, you say, don't push us.
Okay, Osido, we're coming to you on the aspect of the BBI and the significance of the same in relation to what happened with the by-elections. While it might not really be necessary for us to equate these ones, the reality is that that is the talk on ground. And one would want to argue that maybe it's because, again, Wanjiku really does not understand what is incorporated in the document. So they're just taking a blatant approach as their leaders would in terms of, political mimicry and all these things that come along with matters politics. But in line with that, we risk losing what would be very important, because then that will be characterized by what it is that we see, the euphoria that is on ground. How do we save ourselves from this? And do you suppose that it was a mistake to even equate the proceedings of yesterday's or the processes of yesterday to the conversation of a constitutional amendment, which is a huge thing?
Very true. In fact, I agree with you in total and my fellow panelists. And to add to that is we should now begin to delink Msambweni from the BBI or BBI from Msambweni. Unfortunately, one of the principals said this is a litmus test, and if you vote a no for Msambweni, it means you are saying a no to the BBI process. But I think that really should not be the end of it. What therefore needs to be the concern is, how did we get here? And why are we here? And the BBI process, having been involved, and Linda, we have sat with you here and together with several others to talk about what really brought up the handshake and then the Building Bridges to Unity initiative. Kenya has had a very nasty, ugly past. But in all these processes, as I also said earlier on, it has been accredited and attributed to our political class. So how do we take this process from the hands of the politicians? Kenyans must begin to have their own local champions. That young boda person who will be ferrying people from this ward to that ward or within that locality and is sharing with them about the ward fund, telling them about the power that now women will have seated at the Senate to make decisions on resources that go to the counties, talking to them about the 7-year holiday that young people will have, especially those who are in business, telling them about higher education loans board, telling them about, the changes in our governance structures, which will be able to empower the citizens, and why it is important for the citizens to get into political parties. Because again, if you look at the BBI process, it gives a lot of power to the political parties. But who are the owners of these parties? Even as Daktari is interested in running in Murang'a, and you see the way Kenya is politically zoned, you know that if he stood with an ODM ticket in Murang'a, he probably will not. Chances, the probability of winning are very low. But then how do we begin to entice and get people, you know, these people we are calling unions, you know, union leaders, to be involved in politics, then to be able to have a say in who gets nominated and ultimately who gets elected, who gets, because even the appointments that take place for government or even counties, national and county governments, they pass through different organized institutions like political parties, until when Kenyans will have their own local champions for BBI.
Right.
And take it from the hands of the politicians, then that is when we'll be able to see the benefits of BBI. Number two is, not everything in the BBI process require a referendum.
Right.
The Constitution, Article 255, 256, 257 is very clear around what these issues are that will require a referendum. And so let's not also, as Kenyans, take this process from the political class and look at what are the legislative issues that have been raised in the BBI report, and how do we then engage with our legislators, you know, to be able to effect these issues. What are the institutional issues, changes in institutions? If NCIC, for example, is not being felt on the ground, how can Kenyans begin to write letters to the president and copy the chairman of NCIC? Do petitions, you know, we can be saying things here on your platform, and I've had instances where people call me and they now want to begin to take those steps and, you know, move them forward. So how do we organize even our mamambogas down there to begin to write letters to the president and tell him the BBI is good, the process is wrong, we have issues with the process, but we like the following aspects. What are the policy issues that have been raised by the BBI, and then begin to move them forward? And so in finishing, Linda, what has therefore happened, and the president, I think, mentioned the First Amendment to our Constitution more than 18 times in his Jamhuri Day address. Let's look at what that means, including the context that we are operating in. What are the priorities of the citizens? And then how do we even deal with the time frame issues? Because yes, the bus has left the station, Gari la Moshi lishaondoka stesheni, but is there not going to be a Voi station as we head to SGR in Mombasa, where we can actually go to the washroom, you know, buy some peremendes, and then begin to have a conversation around who have we left? Sababu, sometimes I also bought Dizzy Coach on my way home, and the driver normally asks us, check whether your neighbor is there. Kama tumewacha mtu. I think the BBI train needs a stop moment, a stop and think moment, for now Kenyans to begin to feel that they own this process. Otherwise, as I said, there is never a right or wrong time. Kenya has had a very nasty history, which has also had very difficult impacts to our economy. If this is the time that God has given us as Kenyans to review and amend our constitution, so be it. And I like what Mheshimiwa, what Daktari said. Number two, the deputy president should stop being watermelonic on this issue. Say whether you are yes or no. And if you are yes, because what you say is yes, but what you do is no. If you are yes, get into the bus. Tell your boss, the president, boss, I am in this thing, but I don't like how you are doing this. I don't like Tinga's involvement in this. Talk to him, because you two are brothers, and let's have a bus that can be able to move forward. Ikikwama, kila mtu ashuke, asukume, tuendelee mbele.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Time is extremely out of our side. Mheshimiwa, now that after the break we've not said anything, I think I'll allow you to be the last speaker in about 30 seconds or so. Your governor is facing the Senate. What do you expect?
Oh, let me say that, in fact, it's a process like any other. We have seen various number of petitions, and democratically, and within those democratic countries, it is allowable. That's our constitution, which has given that particular route. And now that Nairobi County government has found it right for them to petition the governor for their own issues, they have presented their case. And what I would say is, let us see a very neutral Senate. Let them prosecute this matter soberly. Let them make the judgment depending on facts on the table.
Right.
If they found that the governor has atrophied, then he can take the whip. If they found governor has not atrophied, then he can get excused and be allowed to continue to serve the Nairobian. Nairobians are the one who made the mistake, if there's any mistake.
Yes.
Because these are just consequences that are choices. Choices has consequences. And therefore, we can only blame ourselves if in case we elected the wrong person. But what I would say, the matters has been there, and the national government has tried very much to make sure that Nairobi does not sink, including even creating NMS, and we are seeing it working. If they can have a conduit way of relationship between the NMS and the county, then I would say allow Nairobi to proceed because of what we need at the end of the day is service. It don't matter whether the services are coming from direct from Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta or whether from Sanko. What we need is our problem being fixed.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa Honorable James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North, and on Skype we had Dr. Moses Mwangi. Thank you so much for the great insights, Daktari. And lastly, governance expert from County Governance Watch, Kevin Osido, thank you so much for that. I know we'd wish to have more time to talk much, but all the same, let's close it at that because we have a different segment coming all together after this short break. So don't you go anywhere. Thank you.
Shukran.
Thank you very much.
This is TV47. Happy holidays.
Kaluma King Herbal Lozenges zinazo nguvu maradufu kutuliza kikohozi, vidonda vya koo na mafua. Kaluma King ni shwari.
Chika mama huyo muharifu kaiba kuku zangu, vifaranga wangu na mayai zote pia kabeba. Aya, chika mama huyo.
Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
When it comes to pimple care, Acne's Creamy Wash contains multiple vitamins and removes excessive oil and dirt. Acne's Toner rejuvenates skin. Acne's Sealing Gel fights bacteria. Use Mentholatum Acne's for clear and smooth skin every day.
The Nyali Golf View is situated along Links Road, Nyali, near the Mamba roundabout. Accommodation at the Nyali Golf View ranges from luxurious, air-conditioned, self-catering, elegantly designed 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, and a presidential suite. The apartments are ideal for families and business people. Be it a holiday or a business conference, Nyali Golf View Residence is the right place for you. All rooms reflect exquisite and high-standard decor and cozy ambience that will enhance your stay. Nyali Golf View Residence also offers a fully equipped gym, the real infinity pool, laundry services, valet parking space, and a play area.